Alright, so we're Group 15, and we designed the Apollo 18 rocket game. I'm Larry.
I'm Aaron. I'm Louie.
Alright, so this is a little bit of the background and backstory and inspiration behind our toy. So, Purdue has a very strong connection with the moon and spaceflight in general. We have loads of astronauts and a lot of the moon landings underneath our belt. So obviously Apollo 11 we've all heard of, Neil Armstrong back in July of 1969, first man on the moon. And then Apollo 17, the last of the Apollo missions, brought Gene Cernan, another Purdue grad, and he was the last person to step on the surface of the moon back in 1972. So now in December of 2015, we're going back. So this is some of our toy design. So the idea behind it, we wanted to be able to put the user at the control of the rocket ship and the new little Apollo rocket on their mission to the moon. So it allows the user to aim the rocket both in the side-to-side motion and up and down to get different trajectories and different flight characteristics. So our target consumers are children 8 and up because there are some small parts and things are flying through the air, so you don't want young kids getting hit in the head with stuff or eating small things and choking. So some of the things that we wanted to accomplish with our design was to spark an early interest in these children in both science, technology, and engineering. So we hope to accomplish that by using different technologies such as the control systems behind aiming the rocket, and also the kinematics and trajectories behind getting the rocket to go from the launch pad all the way to the moon. So now we'll talk a little bit about our CAD design.
So for the CAD models, as you can see here, we have a moon and the Earth, and also a rocket. And the rocket is sitting on the latch panel, and the latch panel is attached to the servo. So the servo can move in 2 directions, in which one is rotate 360 degrees, and otherwise, for the launching angle, it can move from 0 degrees to 90 degrees. And these are the CAD models shown here.
So our initial design was to use a solenoid, but it turned out to not be as strong as we thought it would. So we actually had to change everything and launch it mechanically actuated instead of electrically actuated. But this is just kind of a flow of what actually happened within our design.
Just a quick mechanism video showing what we had hoped it to do. So as you can see in this mechanism analysis video, we originally had hoped for the 2 halves of the Earth shell to be attached to our mechanism, so as we rotated the launch pad, the Earth would rotate with it. And then, as Aaron already said, we had hoped to use a tiny itty-bitty solenoid in the launching mechanism of our design, but that proved to be way too weak, so we had to use this relatively massive servo mechanism that was like 10 times as big, and that didn't allow us to enclose the launching mechanism within the Earth. So there's a demonstration video, but we should be able to do it in real life. Just do it. Don't do it. It's kind of hard to aim. And we killed everybody.
So as you can see, this game can be played by 2, 3, or 4 people. The game can be set up in many different ways. You can have people decide to place the moon in a certain position and someone else fire it and they bet on whether or not they can actually hit into the moon. Or a person gets 3 tries, he can place the moon wherever he wants and he can launch it into the moon. In the future, what we would try to do to make this better would be we would try to make this more complicated and we would have the moon rotating around somewhere. Like if we had a bigger station where we could work with, we'd have the moon moving around in a certain position so the user had to aim while the moon is moving and then he could launch the rocket into the moon. Questions? So we did make some like side slots on the Earth where we plan on fitting it like this.
Yeah.
This would be attached to the. Initially we planned this one, but we had to change that, so that's why we couldn't fit it, and that's why the Earth is just kept to the side.
Another thing we forgot to mention this earlier, but the rocket turned out to be much heavier than we had initially anticipated. I sort of figured there'd be some infill used and it wasn't going to be a solid chunk of plastic. So as you saw, even with like a pretty optimum launch angle, it only goes like 1.5 feet. So we would hope to make that much lighter and actually get more of like a 4-foot type of range in terms of how far you could launch to the moon. That was, just add that much more playability to the game itself. Okay, any questions?
Is that connected to the mains right now? To the
Yeah, it's connected to the wall.
Yeah, it was battery powered, but there wasn't enough current capabilities to turn the big servo.
So we had to adapt. Thank you.